Okay, so our topic for today is about ethical and social issues in information systems. So after this chapter, we're looking forward that we could able to understand the ethical, social, and political issues are raised by information systems. What specific principles for conduct can be used to guide ethical decisions? So why do contemporary information system technology and the internet pose challenges to the protection of individual privacy and intellectual property? And how have information system affected everyday life? Now, so in the past few years, no, we have witnessed arguably one of the most ethical challenging periods for US and global business. No, provide a small sample of recent cases demonstrating failed ethical judgment by senior and medical managers. So these lapses in management critical and business judgment occurred across a business spectrum of industries. So in today's new legal environment, managers who violated the law and are convicted would most likely spend time in prisons. Now in US federal sentencing guidelines adopted by their 1987 mandate, the federal judges imposed stiff sentences on business. So of course, the recent example of failed ethical judgment by senior managers like Lehman Brothers, WG Trading Corporation, Minerals Management Services, Galleon Group, Siemens, no, and others. Now, ethics refers to the principle of right and wrong that individuals acting as free moral agents, so used to make choices to guide their behaviors. So information systems raise new ethical questions for both individuals and societies because they create opportunities for intense social change and thus strengthen existing distribution of power, money, rights, and obligations. So, like other technologies such as steam engineers, electricity, the telephone, and the radio information technology can be used to achieve social progress, but it can also be used to commit crimes and threaten cherished social values. So the development of information technology will produce benefits for many and costs for others. So ethical issues in the information systems have been given new urgency by the rise of information technology, specifically internet and electronic commerce. So internet and digital firm technologies make it easier than ever to assemble, integrate, and distribute information, unleashing new concerns about the appropriate use of computer or customer information, the protection of personal privacy, and protection of intellectual property. Other pressing ethical issues raised by information system include establishing accountability for the consequences of information systems, setting standards to safeguard system quality that protects the safety of the individual and society, and preserving values, no, and institution considered essential to the quality of life in an information society. So when using information system, it is essential to ask what is the ethical and social responsible course of action. Now, a model for thinking about ethical, social, and political issue. Now, ethical, social, and political issues are closely linked. No? The ethical dilemma you may face as a manager of information system typically is reflected in social and political debate. No? One way to think about this relationship is given, of course, in some example. So imagine society as a more or less calm pond on a summer day. So a delicate ecosystem in partial equilibrium with individuals and with social and political institutions. So individuals know how to act in this pond, no, because social institutions have developed well-honed rules of behavior, and these are supported by laws developed in the political sector that prescribe behavior and promise sanctions for violations. Okay, so I think the introduction of new information technology has a ripple effect, no? Raising new technical or new ethical, social, and political issues that must be dealt with on the individual, social, and political levels. And these issues have 5 morals dimension. What are those? No? Information rights and obligations, property rights and obligations, systems quality, quality of life, and accountability and control. So imagine, instead that the disturbing force is a powerful shock of new information technology and systems hitting a society more or less at risk. Na? Suddenly, individual actors are confronted with new situation often not covered by the old rules. So, social institution cannot respond overnight to these principles or to these ripples. It may take years to develop etiquette, expectation, social responsibility, politically correct attitude, and approved rules. So, political institutions also required time before developing new laws and often required the demonstration of a real harm before they act. So in the meantime, you may have to act. You may be forced to act in a legal gray area. So at present, our country or the Philippines are now providing the Data Privacy Act. We have the cybercrime law, no? In considering the era of information technology and of course information system. So we can use different model to illustrate the dynamics that connect ethical, social, and political issues. And this model is also useful for identifying the main moral dimension of the information society, which cut across various levels of action: individual, social, and political. Okay, now how about, so a while ago I mentioned about the 5 moral dimension of an information age, no? The major ethical, social, and political issues raised by information systems, no, include some moral issues, no? When it comes to information rights and obligations, so what information rights do individual and organization possess with respect to themselves? So what can they protect? No? Property rights and obligations. How will traditional intellectual property rights be protected in a digital society in which tracing and accounting for ownership and difficult in ignoring such property rights is too easy? For the accountability and control, who can and will be held accountable and liable the harm done to individual and collective information and property rights? For the system quality, what standards of data and system quality should we demand to protect individual rights and the safety of society? And for the quality of life, what values should be preserved in an information and knowledge-based society? Which institutions should be protected from violation? Which cultural values and practices are supported by the new information technology? Now, the key technology trends that raise ethical issues. No? The ethical issues long preceded information technology. So nevertheless, information technology has heightened ethical concerns, tax existing social arrangement, and have some laws obsolete or severely crippled. Now, there are 4 key technological trends responsible for this ethical stress. So the doubling of computing power every 18 months has made it possible for most organizations to use information system for their core production processes. So as the result, our dependence on system and our vulnerability to system errors and poor data quality have increased. So social rules and laws have not yet adjusted to this dependence. So standard for ensuring the accuracy and reliability of information system are not universally accepted or enforced. So advances in data storage technique and rapidly declining storage costs have been responsible for multiplying databases on individuals. So employees, customers, and potential customers maintain by private and public organizations. And these advances in data storage have made the routine violation of individual privacy both cheap and effective. So massive data storage systems are inexpensive enough for regional and even local retailing firms to use it identifying customers. So advances in data analysis techniques for large pools of data are another technological trend and heightens ethical concerns because companies and government agencies are able to find out highly detailed personal information. So that trend at present, no? For example, ang trend computing power doubles every 18 months. So what will be the impact? The impact must be more organizations depend on computer system for critical operations. How about the trend is data storage costs rapidly declining? So organizations can easily maintain detailed databases on individuals. How about if the trend is data analysis advances? So the impact, companies can analyze vast quantities of data gathered on individuals to develop detailed profiles of individual behavior. So if the trend is about networking advances, copying data from one location to another and accessing personal data from remote locations are much easier. So the mining of data from one place to another is too easy if there are some network advances. No? So companies, no, with products to self-purchase relevant information from the sources to help them more finely target their marketing campaigns. No? So the use of computers to combine data from multiple users and create electronic dossiers of detailed information individual is called profiling. No? Yan ang tinatawag natin na profiling. Now, we have what we call non-obvious relationship awareness or yung NORA. No? So, the NORA technology can take information about people from disparate sources and find obscure, no, non-obvious relationships. So, it might discover, for example, that an applicant for a job at a casino shares a telephone number with known criminal and issue an alert to the hiring manager. So, that's why it is very important that all companies or industries must follow the guidelines and compliant with Data Privacy Act of 2012. No? Now, how about the basic concept, responsibility, accountability, and liability in ethics? No? Excuse. Ethics is concerned of humans who have freedom of choice. No? Ethics is about individual choice. When faced with alternative courses of action, what is the correct moral choice and what are the main features of ethical choice? No? So ethical choices are decisions made by individuals who are responsible, of course, for the consequences of their actions. No? So again, in every action, there are some consequences. The responsibility is a key element of ethical action. No? Responsibility means that you accept the potential cost, duties, and obligations for the decisions you make. Accountability is a feature of systems and social institutions. It means that mechanisms are in place to determine who took responsible action and who is responsible. So systems and institutions in which it is impossible to find out who took what actions are inherently incapable of ethical analysis or ethical action. So liability extends the concept of responsibility further to the area of loss. No? Because liability is a feature of political system in which a body of laws is in place that permits individuals to recover the damages done to them by other actors, systems, or organizations. Then, of course, we have a due process. No? The due process is a related feature of law-governed societies and is process in which laws are known and understood. And there is an ability to appeal to higher authorities to ensure that the laws are applied correctly. No? The basic concept from the underpinning of an ethical analysis of information system and those who manage them. First, information technologies are filtered through social institutions, organizations, and individuals. So systems do not have impacts by themselves. So with their information system impacts exist are products of institutional, organizational and individual actions and behaviors. So second, responsibility for the consequences of technology falls clearly on the institution, organization, and individual managers who choose to use that technology. So using information technology in a socially responsible manner means that you can and will be held accountable for the consequences of your action. Third, in an ethical political society, individuals and others can recover damages done to them through a set of laws characterized by due process. So, when confronted with a situation that seems to present ethical issues, so maybe you're asking, how should you analyze it? No? Because we have some steps for ethical analysis. Number one, identify and describe clearly the facts. No? Find out who did what to whom, and where, when, and how. In many instances, you will be surprised at the errors in the initially reported facts, and often you will find that simply getting the facts straight helps define the solution. It also helps to get the opposing parties involved in an ethical dilemma to agree on the facts. So it is important for us to define first or identify and describe the facts of information or the issues or the concerns. No? Number two, define the conflict or dilemma and identify the higher order values involved. Now, ethical, social, and political issues always reference higher values. No? The parties to a dispute all claim to be pursuing higher values because, example, freedom, privacy, protection of property, and free enterprise system. Typically, an ethical issue involves a dilemma. So two diametrically opposed courses of action that support worthwhile values. No? So for example, the chapter ending case study illustrates two competing values. No? The need to improve healthcare records, so keeping, and the need to protect individual privacy. Number three, identify the stakeholders. No? Every ethical, social, and political issues has stakeholders. Players in the game who have an interest in the outcome, who have invested in the situation, and usually who have vocal opinions. Find out the identity of these groups and what they want. This will be useful later when designing a solutions. No? It is very important for us to find out who have invested in the situation and usually who have vocal opinions. No? This will be useful, again, as I mentioned, in designing a solutions. That's why if you are doing a system or a software, it is better for us to interview or to have a direct observations to those persons who are presently using the kind of systems. No? The existing systems. No? Then, number four, identify the option that you can reasonably take. You may find that none of the options satisfy all the interests involved, but that some options do a better job than others. So sometimes arriving at a good or ethical solutions may not always be a balancing of consequences to stakeholders. So, okay. Number five, identify the potential consequences of your opinions or your options. No? Identify the potential consequences of your options. So some options may be ethically correct, but disastrous from other points of view. So other options may work in one instance, but not in other similar instances. Always ask yourself, what if I choose this option consistently over time? Again, sometimes, if we choose this one, there is somebody who suffered. No? Again, identify the potential consequences of your options. So, there are some candidate ethical principles. So, once your analysis is complete, what ethical principle or rules should you use to make a decision? So, what higher order values should inform your judgment? Although you are the only one who can decide which among many ethical principles you will follow. no, and how you will prioritize them. It is helpful to consider some ethical principles with deep roots in many cultures that have survived throughout recorded history. Again, don't forget the golden rule. Okay, is there somebody who know the golden rules? What is the golden rules? Joanna, what is the golden rules?
Do not do to others.
Okay, yes, very good. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This is the golden rules. Putting yourself into the place of others, always, no? And thinking of yourself as the object of the decision can help you think about fairness in decision making. Again, always putting yourself in the place of others and thinking of yourself as the object of the decision. It can help you think about fairness in decision making. Always apply the golden rules. No? Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. Another, if an action is not right for everyone to take, it is not right for anyone. So ask yourself, if everyone did this, could the organization or society survive? Okay. Then, another thing, if an action cannot be taken repeatedly, it is not right to take at all. No? That is Descartes' rule of change. No? This is the slippery slope rule. So an action may bring about a small change, not that is acceptable, but if it is repeated, it would bring unacceptable changes in the long run. So in the vernacular, it might be stated as once started down a slippery path, you may not be able to stop. Okay? But according to utilitarian principle, no, take the action that achieves the higher or greater value. No? This rule assume you can prioritize values in a rank order and understand the consequences of various courses of action. Another considerations for candidate ethical principles, take the action that produce the less harm or the less potential cost. This is the risk aversion principle. Because some actions have extremely high failure cost of very low probability. No? Like building a nuclear generating facility in an urban area, or extremely high failure cost of moderate probability, speeding in automobile accidents. Avoid these high failure cost actions, paying greater attention to high failure cost potential of moderate to high probability. Number 6 is the ethical no free lunch rule. Now, assume that virtually all tangible and intangible objects are owned by someone else unless there is a specific declaration otherwise. No? If something someone else has created is useful to you, it has value. And you should assume the creator wants compensation for this work. So, action that do not easily pass these rules deserve close attention and a great deal of caution. So, the appearance of unethical behavior may do as much harm as you and your company as actual unethical behavior. Now, some professional codes of conduct, like when groups of people claim to be professional, they take on special rights and obligations because of their special claims to knowledge, wisdom, and respect. So, professional code of conduct are promulgated by associations of professionals such as American Medical Association, the American Bar Association, the Association of Information Technology Professional, yung AITP, no? And the Association for Computing Machinery or ACM. These professional groups take responsibility for the partial regulations of their profession by determining entrance qualification and competence. So, code of ethics are promises by professions to regulate themselves in a general interest of society. So, for example, avoiding harm to others, honoring property rights, including intellectual property, and respecting privacy are among the general moral imperatives of the ACM codes of ethics and professional conduct. So what are some real-world ethical dilemmas? Information system have created new ethical dilemmas in which one set of interests is pitted against another. For example, many of the large telephone companies in the United States are using information technology to reduce the sizes of their workforces. No? Voice recognition software reduces the need for human operators by enabling computers to recognize a customer's responses to a series of computerized questions. And many companies monitor what their employees are doing on the internet to prevent them from wasting company resources on non-business activities. Take note, no, at present, no, sometimes if we call a company, there are some recorded voice answering our phone call. No, in each instance, no, you can find competing values at work with groups lined up on their either side of a debate. No. A company may argue, no, for example, that it has a right to use information system to increase productivity and reduce the size of its workforce to lower costs and stay in business. No, again, sometimes, especially right now, no, some machines no replace the task of a person or an employers. No? So employees displaced by information system may argue that employees have some responsibility for their welfare. So business owners might feel obligated to monitor employee email and internet use to minimize drains on productivity. And employees might believe they should be able to use the internet for a short personal task in place of the telephone. So a close analysis of the facts can sometimes produce compromise solutions and give each side half a loaf. Try to apply some of the principles of ethical analysis described to each of these cases. So what is the right thing to do? Now, the moral dimension of information system. Okay. We identify the ethical, social, and political levels of analysis and use real-world example to illustrate the values involved, the stakeholders, and the option chosen. The information rights, like privacy and freedom in the internet age. Again, privacy is the claim of individuals to be left alone, free from surveillance or interference from other individuals or organizations, including the state. Claims to privacy are also involved at the workplace. So millions of employees are subject, no, to electronic and other forms of high-tech surveillance. Information technology and systems threaten individual claims to privacy by making the invasion of privacy cheap, profitable, and effective. So the claim to privacy is protected in US, Canada, German, and in the Philippines at present. No? So a variety of different ways in other countries through various institutes. No? So in US, the claim to privacy is protected primarily by the First Amendment guarantees of freedom of speech and associations. No? Now, actually, they have a lot of general federal privacy laws. Now, in the Philippines, we just only data privacy law of 2012. No? So, I think there's somebody who are going to discuss about the data privacy. No? It is important on all information and data to have an informed consent. No? Because informed consent can be defined as consent given with knowledge of all the facts needed to make a rational decision. That's why every meeting I always ask you, if you have some data privacy concern, you are not obliged to turn on your camera. Okay? So it means to say that if you turn on your camera, you are giving me an opportunity to maybe to capture your pictures and post it in a YouTube account. No? Now, internet challenges to privacy. Internet technology has posed new challenges for the protection of individual privacy. No, information sent over this vast network of networks may pass through many different computer systems before it reaches its final destination. Each of these systems is capable of monitoring, capturing and storing communication that pass through it. So take note. So anytime we post our pictures, video in all social media networks, it compasses a different computer system before it reaches its final destinations. No? So it is possible to record many online activities, including what searches have been conducted in Facebook, no? Specifically in Facebook. So once you, for example, last week or yesterday, you open about IoT, no, Internet on Things. So tomorrow, when you open your Facebook, some commercials or some marketing paraphernalia expose about IoT. Now, it happened because there are possible record of many of your online activities. No? Because which website and web pages have been visited, the online content a person has accessed, and what items that person has inspected or purchased over the web. So much of this monitoring and tracking of website visitor occurs in the background without the visitor's knowledge. Did you know that Facebook is not allowed in other country? No? Again, it is conducted not just by individual website, but by advertising networks such as Microsoft Advertising, Yahoo, and DoubleClick that are capable of tracking all browsing behavior at thousands of websites. Tools to monitor visit to the World Wide Web have become popular because they help businesses determine who is visiting their website and how to better target their offerings. And take note, some firms also monitor the internet usage of their employees to see how they are using company network resources. So take note of it. So after your graduation and you are working in a large company, there are some company monitor your internet usage. No? The commercial demand for this personal information is virtually insatiable. Okay? Website can learn the identities of their visitors if the visitors voluntarily registers at the site to purchase a product or service or to obtain a free service such as information. So website can also capture information about visitors without their knowledge using cookie technology. Okay? The cookies are a small text file now deposited on a computer hard drive when a user visits website. So cookies identify the visitor's web browser software and track visit to the website. So when the visitor returns to a site that has stored a cookie, the website software will search the visitor's computer, find the cookie, and know what the person has done in the past. Take note of it. So how secure we are, especially if you have a cookie in your computer. It may also update the cookie depending on the activity during the visit. Okay? So, again, website owners can also combine that data they have gathered from cookies and other website monitoring tools with personal data from other sources, such as offline data collected from surveys of paper catalog purchases to develop very detailed profiles of their visitors. That's why don't put your personal information in all social media networking. There is somebody who are posting their password in their social media messenger. It is not advisable. There are now even more subtle and surreptitious tools for surveillance of internet users. Marketers use web beacons. You've heard web beacons? That is another tool to monitor online behavior. No? Web beacons, or also called web bugs. It is a tiny objects invisibly embedded in email messages and web pages that are designed to monitor the behavior of the users visiting a website or sending email. The web beacon captures and transmits information such as the IP address, take note, of the user's computer, the time a web page was viewed, and for how long. So the type of web browser that retrieved the beacon and previously set cookie values. So web beacons are placed on popular website by third party firms who pay the website a fee for access to their audience. And typically, popular website contain 25 to 35 web beacons. Ang dami, no? Now, other spyware can secretly install itself on internet users' computers by piggybacking on larger applications. So when installed, the spyware calls out to website to send banner ads and other unsolicited material to the user. And it can also report the user's movements on the internet to other computers. More information is available about intrusive software. About 75% of global internet users use Google search and other services, making Google the world's largest collector of online user data. So whatever Google's data does with its data has an enormous impact on online privacy. And most experts believe that Google possesses the largest collection of personal information in the world. No? More data on more people than any government agency. So for a number of years, Google has been using behavioral use of this data. No? Google has been using behavioral targeting to help it display more relevant ads based on users' search activities. Google has also been scanning the contents of messages received by users of its free web-based email service called Gmail. No? Ads that users see when they read their email are relative to the subjects of these messages. So, an opt-out model of informed consent permits the collection of personal information until the consumer specifically requests that the data not be collected. So privacy advocates would like to see wider use of an opt-in model of informed consent in which a business is prohibited from collecting any personal information unless the consumer specifically takes action to approve information collection and use. So for example, in Google search, now what are the data collected by Google search? The topic, the user internet addresses. No? For Gmail, the data collected, of course, the content of your email messages. They have already your old messages. Even you have a private message, Gmail save all those messages. The double click feature, no? Data-able website visited on Google's ad network. For YouTube. So data about videos uploaded and downloaded. Some profile data. So for example, if CCC third year student downloaded always about data privacy. No, the targeted ads for Google display ad network. So once you open your YouTube account, automatically it suggested different data privacy concerns. Okay, mobile maps with my location. This application collected users' actual or approximate location. The Google Chrome, no, sample of address bars entries when a Google is default in the search engine. Google Analytics, no, traffic data from website using Google's analytics services, and so on. So through that, they could able to market not that, okay, this website was visited by 15 years old or 18 years old. So the commercial or the marketing people who are targeting this age, no, could able to give some commercials in this page. No? Now, The system quality, no, or data quality and system errors. So again, the debate over liability and accountability for unintentional consequences of system use race as a relative but independent moral dimension. Actually, if you encountered a case, no, in data privacy, that is million, no, millions. No, you need to pay a millions, no. So the three principal sources of poor system performance are software bugs and errors, hardware or facility failures caused by natural or other causes, and poor input data quality. No? Although software bugs and facility catastrophes are likely to be widely reported in the press, no? By far, the most common sources of business systems failure is data quality. So few companies routinely measure the quality of their data, but individual organizations report data errors rates ranging from 0.5 to 30%. So the quality of life, equity, access, and boundaries. So the negative social cost of introducing information technologies in systems are beginning to mount along with the power of the technology. So many of these negative social consequences are not violations of individual rights of property crimes. Now, nevertheless, these negative consequences can be extremely harmful to individuals, societies, and political institutions. So computer and information technologies potential can destroy valuable elements of our culture and society, even while they bring us benefits. If there is a balance of good and bad consequences of using information system, who do we hold responsible for the bad consequences? So again, we discussed already the negative social consequences of systems, considering individual, social, and political responses. Okay, so now, to summarize na my discussion, so again, what ethical, social, and political issues are raised by information system? Again, information technology is introducing changes for which laws and rules of acceptable conduct have not yet been developed. So increasing computing power, storage, and network capabilities, including the internet, expand the reach of individuals and organizational actions and magnify their impact. So the ease and anonymity with which information is now communicated, copied, and manipulated in online environments pose new challenges to the protection of privacy and intellectual property. So the main ethical, social, and political issues raised by information systems center around information rights and obligations, property rights and obligations, accountability and control, system quality, and quality of life. So what specific principles for conduct can be used to guide ethical decisions? Again, the 6 ethical principles for judging conduct include the Golden Rule, Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, Descartes, rule of change, and the utilitarian principle, the risk aversion principle, and the ethical no freelance rule. And this principle should be used in conjunction with an ethical analysis. So, why do the contemporary information system technology and the internet pose challenges to the protection of individual privacy and intellectual property? Now, contemporary data storage and data analysis technology enables companies to easily gather personal data about individuals from many different sources and analyze this data to create detailed electronic profiles about individuals and their behaviors. So data flowing over the internet can be monitored at any points or at many points. Cookies and other web monitoring tools closely track the activities of website visitors. So not all websites have strong privacy protection policies. Take note of it. And they do not always allow for informed consent regarding the use of personal information. The traditional copyright laws are insufficient to protect against software piracy because digital material can be copied so easily and transmitted to many different locations simultaneously over the internet. So how have information system affected everyday life? Although computer system had been sources of efficiency and wealth, they have some negative impacts. Now, computer errors can cause serious harms to individual and organizations. So, poor data quality is also responsible for disruption and losses for business. So, jobs can be lost when computers replace workers or tasks become unnecessary in re-engineered business processes. The ability to own and use a computer may be exacerbating socioeconomic disparities among different racial groups and social classes. So widespread use of computer increases opportunities for computer crime and computer abuse. Computer can also create health problems such as RSI, computer vision syndrome, and techno stress. And that's it for my discussion about ethical and social issues in information system.